My name is Trina Firth, and I was born in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I've lived here all of my life. I grew up in what I would describe, honestly, as a dysfunctional, abusive family. But within that family, there was lots of beauty too. And I was born into a Roman Catholic family. My mom was Roman Catholic and my dad was Baptist, and they married and we went to the Roman Catholic Church as children. And we went also to the Catholic schools growing up. I loved religion in school, and I especially loved God. I feel like I always had a very strong connection with God since I was a little girl. I remember doing my first communion, and that was a very special time for me. And I enjoyed the rituals actually in the church. But as I came up into the junior high school, we still had religious celebrations through the Catholic school, but my parents had divorced when I was 6, so we didn't have any regular sort of church attendance. Yeah, I mean, I first want to say again that within that there was beauty from both of my parents. But my mother, I believe, had some mental health issues, and my father had some alcoholic issues. And you know, it was very disruptive for myself as a child. I had 2 sisters, but I went to 14 different schools before I reached grade 12. We were shipped to my dad and then back to my mom. I was kicked out of the house at 13 and on the street. So lots of hardship, I think, as a child, that most children should be protected at that time, and that was a difficulty. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I certainly had friends who came from healthy, loving families, more functional families, and I felt sort of envious, or I longed for that. But you know, in retrospect now, even though I had hardship, it prepared me for what I'm doing as my career now, which is a social worker. And I always knew as a small child I wanted to help people. I wanted to somehow help them to get through hardship as well. I did finish high school. Actually, at that time where I was sort of on the street, I found a place to live, and I was going to school, I was working and paying rent, and I was really struggling to finish the high school. And so I did finish high school, and then I went on to college and university. I took a child and youth care diploma, wanting to work with children and youth because, of course, mine was difficult, and I managed to get through that, I believe, with the help of God. And then I went on to the University of Calgary and took my social work degree. And so now I work with couples, marriage counseling, and that type of thing. Yeah, I think I just always referred to myself as Christian, not so much any particular denomination. And I very much always felt very connected to God. So I guess I considered myself more spiritual. I never not believed in God. In fact, I feel like through my hardships, my belief in God grew stronger. I actually did work straight away. I did have a marriage. I was married for 23 years, and I'm currently divorced, but I have 2 beautiful children from that marriage. And so while I was going to university, I was also raising my children and having a family. This was actually just a few years ago, And I mean, in my work as a social worker, I work with very diverse populations, right? All different religions and ethnicities, and that's the beauty. That's one of the beauties I learned from my family as a child, you know, is that diversity is okay. But I really honestly didn't have much interaction with a lot of Muslim people, and didn't really know much about it. But I met a friend, actually a neighbor of mine, and we started talking, and he told me he was sponsoring some orphan children, and characteristics that he had that he would relate to Islam. And then I became sort of curious, like, who is this man that has such a beautiful character? And that, what is this Islam, right? I mean, I knew of it, but I didn't listen to the media. And that was sort of my first more strong encounter with that. Honestly, I never really thought about it. I mean, I had friends from all walks of life, all different religions, all different ethnicities, but I didn't really think of anything in that context. I always just thought spiritually, and if the person was good, based on their behavior and their character, it didn't matter to me sort of what was their religion. So I didn't really honestly think much about Islam. I didn't think bad or good. Well, actually, that was a beautiful encounter because, as I said, I saw these beautiful behaviors. And one day, this friend of mine was donating a carpet to one of the mosques and said, "Would you like to come?" And I thought, oh my gosh, I've never been to a mosque. And he said, you have to wear a scarf. And I think I wanted to know some of the, I guess, stereotypes, like, are women, you know, oppressed if they wear the hijab? I heard, you know, women have to ask, you know, for permission to leave the house. So some of the things that maybe I'd be more nervous about, right? And then they would explain it in context and in its true form that, you know, in fact, hijab is not oppressive, it's liberating, and it's between you and God. And as I started to talk, I've always been a very intuitive person. I think this came from my childhood, is I was drawn to people based on good energy. And these people had beautiful energy. And I was really drawn to that. And it wasn't so much what we always said as it was watching their behaviors match. What do we say in our culture? They walk the talk, right? And to me, that was really important because I did see growing up some hypocrisy in you know, people who would go to church on Sunday, and on this day they were great Christians, and then during the week they were doing things that weren't very Christian-like. Yeah. You know, actually it was only a matter of a couple of months for me. Again, for me, something resonated in my heart and my soul with the things that they were sharing with me, the questions, again, watching their behaviors. I really thought, I mean, it's kind of idealistic, but I've always thought people should be kind to each other and have good manners and common courtesies. And I really was at a place in my life where I felt like people were losing these things, especially in the materialism and our technology. And when I started to see this again, it just resonated in my heart. And within a couple of months, I said to the one beautiful girl her and her husband bought me this, I said, I want to become Muslim. And how do I do that? And they said, you have to do Shahada. I said, what's that? Right? And so I actually just did it with my girlfriend and one other girl initially. And we cried. And these girls, they had like goosebumps on their arms. And then I did a public Shahada after that with Sheikh Osama Al-Attar, which was very beautiful because he helped me do that publicly. And that was a beautiful experience. Terrifying, but beautiful, because there were so many people there. I felt a sense of peace. I felt, you know, it felt like coming home to me. Some of my girlfriends tease me now. They say, we think you've always been Muslim in terms of my beliefs and my philosophies. It kind of felt like coming home. It really felt like God opened the door for me and I walked through. And I don't feel like I so much chose it as I feel God chose it for me. I felt a gentle pulling from God towards that. So I never questioned my intuition because I believe that's a gift from God. So it was very beautiful. As I started to learn, and I still have a long way to go, because I guess I did it maybe differently. I first went based on energy and watching and witnessing true behaviors, and then started to learn more about it. I haven't had any doubts, but there's things that have. For example, when I went to a mosque one day, they were doing some, I think, martyrdom of Imam Ali, peace be upon him, and they were gently just remembering him by doing this. And then I thought, oh, what is that? I was sort of curious. They explained this is just honoring him. Or if the women would cry for certain events, I didn't understand, why are all these women crying? And then people would explain this is a way to honor. And so there was nothing, I guess, really big that sort of made me nervous or doubt. It all made sense to me. It just resonated in a logical way and in a heart way. Well, I was married for 23 years and divorced for probably, I think, 4 years before I did my Shahada. Yeah. They're both on their own now. My son was with me actually during the time that I did the conversion. And it's interesting because my daughter is Christian, and she's married and has children. And she was very open to it and very happy and just joyful for me. And my son was very nervous. In fact, sometimes I think he was angry. And on the day that I did my conversion, I told him, would you like to come with me? I'm publicly going to do Shahada. And he said, my friends told me, whatever you do, don't let your mom convert. I think he was hearing bad things like on the media, or his friends were nervous. And what's happened has been really his own spiritual growth through it, because he's seen that I'm still the same person. If anything, I'm more peaceful. I'm more quiet, which was a bit concerning for him, but he sort of goes back and forth with it, I think. I think that he has seen the true Islam, and that's what he loves, and then sometimes he'll hear something or have concerns, and then he gets worried. I think from friends, for sure, and perhaps from media. And when I explained to him, like, an example might be some women don't shake hands, right? Some Muslim women do and some don't. I guess it depends where they are on the spectrum. So for him, he wants to know, why is this not the case? He met a few of my Muslim girlfriends, and they didn't shake hands with him, and they explained. And he was okay with it, he understood. But then on another occasion, he would say, we live in Canada and we should shake hands. So I think it's been a growth for him as well. But he's really, what I want to say about my children is they are really open to diversity and different ways of expressing spirituality. And so that's something beautiful that they have that I learned as a child as well. Well, I was doing community development, so I was working with quite a diverse population, Aboriginal people, some people from Africa, some Muslim people, just really quite a diversity. And I love doing that because it's helping people to draw upon their strength and to make the community a better place, regardless of their differences. I now am doing more counseling. I work a little bit in the area of family violence as well. And so it's always been for me very naturally to work with diverse populations and just to give the best of myself to help people to have a better life. I don't wear my hijab to work. I wear it when I'm not at work, and that's part of my growth and challenge as a Muslim woman. But I think it has helped me to be more peaceful. I think I always felt like somehow I have to save the world. out. And I still feel I want to help people, but I think I have more faith that, you know what, it's not me who has to save these people. God will do that for them. So it's brought me a little bit more peace in the way I work with them, I think. I think for me it's disheartening because I want to follow as closely the true path of being, I guess, the best Muslim you can be. And you know what? I think there's good and bad in all people. This is what I've discovered. So whether it's a Muslim husband and wife and there's family violence, this is not right. Whether it's a Christian husband and wife, or whether it's even an atheist husband and wife, violence is violence is violence, and it's not okay. But it does make me sad, whether they be Christian, whether they be Muslim, or whatever, that they're not really following the true, pure form of the religion in the way it was intended. And that's, you know, do unto others as you want done unto you. So I think that people use religion sometimes to do harm, and that's not what it's meant for. Inshallah, I will. I'm not sure. I do a lot of work with men right now as well. I actually work with men who are victims of violence. We have enough of our social workers who are working with the women, so I've chosen to work with men who are victims of violence. And also I choose to work with men in groups to teach them how to have healthy relationships, which is separate. It's not abusive, but just to how to enrich their relationship. Already it's a barrier because I'm a woman. So some of the guys, they say, what is this woman doing here? Because they're struggling with being in peace with women. And I think that if I wore the hijab, it might be even one more barrier. So I struggle with that, and inshallah, maybe in time I will grow into that. And again, because I'm a very intuitive person, I go based on energy, and if I'm quiet and I listen to my heart, God has always guided me in the right way. So I had no problem just to embrace that, and then to keep learning now about it, which makes it more beautiful. I had a beautiful, beautiful dream. My daughter has 3 girls. Her first girl's name is Khadija, and when she named her this, I didn't know, what is this name Khadija? Why do you want to name her Khadija? And she said, Mom, I can't explain it, I just have to. We only knew when she was 2 and she got her hair cut from a Muslim fellow who he said, do you know who Khadija is? And he told us. And so I had a dream actually that myself and Khadija were walking down the street holding hands, and we looked up to the sky and there was a majestic, beautiful cloud in the shape of an elephant. And we were telling people on the street, you should look at this, it's important. And people didn't want to look. So the elephant blew some fire towards them, but not to hurt them, just to warn them. And then we started crying, Khadija and I, because we knew that this was God, and God was merciful and kind, and God just wanted to say to the people that I am majestic and you should look towards me. And so I had lots of dreams about Islam, and the cloud was whispering this word, Islam, Islam. And I shared this dream with Khadija, and we cried. It was beautiful. I'm typically a very private person, so throughout my life I don't necessarily discuss politics or religion. But if it comes up in the conversation, for example, there was one fellow at my work, he was saying something about Muslim men. And then I closed the door and I said, listen, brother. And I've always called everyone brother and sister at work, even before I converted. And I said, you know, this isn't true, and do you know that I'm Muslim? And he said, you're Muslim? Because of course I don't wear the scarf. And he was very happy. And he's been asking me lots of questions since then. So for me, if it comes up naturally, I will share that with them for sure. I actually love wearing it when I'm not at work. I struggled a bit initially, and I think I felt a bit rebellious. I'm not wearing it, only to mosque. And once I made that stand, then I felt like I had to wear it every day. But I've had some beautiful encounters wearing it. I had one, I went to Safeway. This fellow was in front of me and he was short for money, so I paid the difference. And he said, "You're so kind, this is so nice." And a Muslim fellow who was working at the Safeway said, "Oh, this is what we do as Muslim people." He was so proud. And then the guy who I paid for said, "Is there anything I can do for you?" I said to him, "Yeah, just please say a prayer for me." And then he said, "I'm atheist." So I thought, well, this is good. This is a good encounter he had with a Muslim person. So I've had sort of funny encounters like that, and I actually enjoy to wear it. And yeah, sometimes people look, but it's okay. Yeah. I think a little of both now. I've always been someone who's very inquisitive, so I ask lots of questions, and so I'm always asking questions to my girlfriends. What about this? Or there was a lecture by Sheikh Osama. He said this. What do you think about that? You know, I email Sheikh Osama Alatar with questions. This is how I learn, is by asking. But I do have some books, and I watch the Alabait TV, and I'm trying to, I guess, discipline myself to learn a little bit more on my own. But more of it just sort of comes naturally, and I feel like spiritually this is a journey for me, and it will continue for the rest of my life, so I don't feel in a rush to grab all the books. Knowledge, I think, is important for sure, but I've always run my life more on a spiritual, energetic path, so it happens more naturally. Honestly, I want to become the best Muslim woman that I can be for me, and that people can see that beauty and light in me the same way that I saw in them, and that they will ask me questions, and I hope that maybe some people will convert because of it. But I think I want to keep helping people, and I want to be more peaceful in myself and grow in my faith. I really love God and I have good faith, but I think sometimes I need to have bigger faith. And so that's really my ambition, is to make that faith bigger for myself so that people can see that as well. I think I've been really blessed to be able to go to the majority of the mosque here. So, you know, I hope I'm not saying them incorrectly, but there's, yeah, the Lebanese mosque and the Iraqi mosque, and then more the South Asian mosque in terms of culturally who goes there. They're all different and yet all beautiful, and I have felt very welcomed by the brothers and the sisters. One of the things that I think, though, because again, when I did the Shahada publicly, it's so beautiful. People are so much congratulating you and showing their love. And I do think, though, honestly, as a new convert, there could be more support emotionally, in terms of books and stuff. So it's there, but it's because I've reached out to people and they've received me quite beautifully. But I don't know if I was reaching out if they could, because life is busy, right? So I think that people are busy, they have families, they have their lives, and they might not know that you need more support. Even just in terms of learning Salat, like I went to 3 or 4 different women, but they all did it a little bit differently. So I'm saying people are there for you, but I've had to reach out for it and continue to do that. And it would be nice if there was even a program. Like, okay, you're new, come tend to this program for 4 weeks in stage 1, stage 2. It's a little more structured is what I'm saying. That would be helpful as well. My first year I went to the Iraqi mosque and it was always in Arabic. And I don't understand Arabic, but again, I understood on a soul level, and then sometimes the women would translate for me. And then somebody said, "Oh, do you know at this mosque, the speaker speaks English?" And so Ideally, I'd like to see everyone from all the different cultures in one mosque, including the reverts. But I still think that when you're new, you need maybe something on the side where you can all attend and continue to learn. So maybe a combination of both. I think there could be some growth in that area, because I think that, I could be wrong, but I think people come across Islam sort of just indirectly, because maybe they knew some Muslim person or something, sort of like I did. And not to get to the extreme either, where they're knocking on the doors and giving the pamphlets. But I just think to maybe sort of be somewhere in the middle. I think there's a lot of people who don't know anything about Islam, honestly, and what they do learn, of course, unfortunately, is some of the negative media. So I think it could be more organized with how people do that. But I will say, I did attend an interfaith meeting with Sheikh Osama Al-Attar, and I thought, this is beautiful, this is what we need to do. You know, the Christians and the Muslims and the Buddhists and more of those interfaiths, this is a part of it. I can only say what works for me, and I think being quiet and being alone, providing space in your life to do that. So you can call it meditation or whatever that is. I think if in this busy, kind of crazy world, to just give yourself that time to be quiet and to be alone, you can hear the voice of God, and you can hear in your heart and soul sort of where you need to go in terms of your growth. So that is what works with me. That's what I would share with people.